So Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, just turned 60. And the real gift wasn't a party or a portrait, it was Prince William quietly approving a title change for her kids that has Buckingham Palace insiders genuinely reeling, not because it's scandalous, but because it signals something nobody was expecting, a deliberate, strategic reshuffling of who actually matters in the monarchy's future. And it's happening right now while King Charles is still on the throne. Before we get into why this is such a big deal, take a second to subscribe to Crown Watch so you don't miss updates like this. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. For over 2 decades, Sophie and her husband, Prince Edward, have been the monarchy's most reliable background players. They never sought the limelight through drama or spectacle. They just showed up, did the work, and built their reputation steadily with a dedication that earned them deep respect within the family. And while that sounds like a nice, safe legacy, the recent move by William suggests he sees their branch of the family as something far more critical than just reliable backup singers. When you actually look at what was said versus what happened, the contradiction is wild. Back in 2020, Sophie gave this incredibly candid interview where she explained exactly why her children, Lady Louise, Windsor, and James, didn't use the HRH titles they were technically entitled to by birth. Her words were pretty straightforward. We try to bring them up with the understanding that they are very likely to have to work for a living. She said the titles were theirs and they could decide to use them from 18, but she added immediately that it was highly unlikely. The whole point was to raise them as normal kids, unburdened by the restrictions and expectations that come with being full-time royals. Louise was styled as Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor. James carried the courtesy title Viscount Severn, and the plan seemed set. They would go to regular schools, live mostly outside the spotlight, and probably carve out private careers like normal people. Fast forward to now, and James has stepped into the role of Earl of Wessex, a title once held by his father before Edward became Duke of Edinburgh. That is not a small adjustment. That is not keeping your head down and preparing to work a regular job. That title elevates his status, places him firmly within the structure of the monarchy, and signals that his role is not to remain in obscurity, but to take on growing significance. So the question becomes, what changed between 2020 and today that made highly unlikely turn into actually here's an earldom and a much more visible future? Honestly, the fact that they won't just come out and explain a pivot is the weird part, but when you examine the timeline, the logic starts to reveal itself. The monarchy is facing a very real numbers problem. They have been pushing this slimmed-down model for years, fewer working royals, fewer balcony appearances, a tighter core, but slimmed down only works if you still have enough people to cover the hundreds of engagements, the charity patronages, the state visits, and the constant public visibility that keeps the institution relevant. King Charles is 76 and facing health challenges that have already noticeably reduced his schedule. Queen Camilla, for all her carefully staged appearances designed to project relevance and stability, is fighting a deeper battle not to be overshadowed or forgotten in the grand narrative of the monarchy. Princess Anne remains a pillar of strength, stoic and steady, widely considered the monarchy's hardest worker, but even her shoulders cannot carry the weight of the crown forever. Prince William and Princess Catherine are the undeniable future, but they are only 2 people with 3 young children. They cannot be everywhere. So when William looks at the landscape of available, trustworthy, scandal-free royals who could step into more prominent roles, his eyes land directly on Sophie's family. And that is where the title change for James becomes less of a mystery and more of a strategic chess move. Think about what Sophie herself has been quietly building while everyone was distracted by louder royal dramas. She was never just the wife of the Queen's youngest son doing ribbon cuttings. Sophie journeyed into some of the world's most turbulent and dangerous regions, especially across Africa, South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone. She witnessed firsthand the suffering of those caught in conflict and focused particularly on gender-based violence in war zones, a subject often ignored or silenced. For her efforts, she was awarded the Hillary Rodham Clinton Award, placing her in the same sphere as international humanitarian figures like Angelina Jolie. Royal commentators have described her as King Charles's secret weapon, his hidden strength in a monarchy that constantly needs both stability and modern relevance. The late Queen Elizabeth II herself considered Sophie a rock, and their bond was so strong that Sophie once referred to the Queen as Mama in public. That level of trust is not given lightly. So when William approved the elevation of Sophie's children, he was not just being nice to his aunt and uncle. He was recognizing that this branch of the family has proven itself loyal, steady, and scandal-free for over 25 years. And in a monarchy that has been rocked by exits, accusations, and tabloid storms, That kind of reliability is more valuable than ever. And here is where the timeline doesn't add up, if you believe the old narrative. If Sophie and Edward truly wanted their children to fade into private life, why accept the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh titles in the first place? That elevation was not a casual gift. It was a public acknowledgement of years of loyalty, service, and discretion. It signaled that Edward and Sophie were being moved from the supporting cast into principal roles. You do not elevate the parents while planning for their children to disappear. You elevate the parents precisely because you are also planning to position their children as future assets. Lady Louise, once one of the least visible of the Queen's grandchildren, now appears to be carefully and deliberately introduced to the public eye. At public ceremonies, her calm presence and composed demeanor have not gone unnoticed. She exudes a poise beyond her years, and her talent for carriage driving, a sport her late grandfather, Prince Philip, adored, connects tradition with modern grace. James, with his new title as Earl of Wessex, is being positioned not as a private citizen who happens to be related to the king, but as a potential working member of the royal family who may be called upon to shoulder responsibilities far sooner than anyone imagined. Together, Louise and James embodies something the monarchy desperately needs: a new generation untainted by scandal, raised with humility rather than entitlement, shaped by Sophie's insistence on values over vanity. The broader pattern here is unmistakable. William is not just waiting for his turn to wear the crown. He is actively shaping the institution according to his own vision, even while his father still reigns. His public presence grows stronger, his speech is more commanding, his image crafted with increasing precision. Each appearance seems less like a supporting role and more like a rehearsal for the throne. By ensuring that Sophie's children are recognized and elevated, he is strengthening a branch of the family that aligns with his apparent goal of a monarchy that is lighter, leaner, yet sharper in its influence. He is rewarding quiet service over loud spectacle, investing in those who have shown resilience, and quietly building the team he will need when the weight of the crown eventually rests on his head. The whispers inside palace corridors are louder than any proclamation. They say that roles are being redefined, that power is flowing in new directions, that history is being written in quiet ink behind palace walls. The monarchy is not collapsing, the crown is not tumbling to the ground. It is being rebalanced, gently molded for the years ahead. It is not a fall, but a transformation. What makes Sophie's story so compelling is that she never campaigned for this. She never angled for more prominence or lobbied for her children's advancement. She simply did the work year after year in some of the most dangerous places on earth, giving a voice to the voiceless and dignity to those who endured the unthinkable. She modeled a kind of royal service rooted in dignity rather than drama, in grace rather than grandstanding. Those who know her describe her as approachable and grounded, qualities rare and precious in the rarefied world of royalty. By raising her children away from arrogance and close to tradition, she built a foundation the monarchy will one day rely upon. And now, through her, her children are being positioned not just as members of the family, but as potential future leaders in a royal machine that needs every steady hand it can find. The shift carries weight. It tells the world that the monarchy is adapting and that the quietest corners of the family may end up being its strongest pillars. So when you piece it all together, the title change for James is not really about one teenager getting a fancier name. It is about William recognizing that in the years to come, the crown will depend not only on him and Catherine, but also on the extended family members who embody trust, discretion, and service. Sophie, once underestimated, now stands as one of the monarchy's central pillars, and her children, raised in the steady guiding light of their parents' quiet values, represent a future monarchy that blends tradition with modern promise, grace without scandal, loyalty without noise. The greatest secrets of the crown are not hidden in archives or locked away in vaults. They are happening now before our very eyes, silent, subtle, but impossible to ignore. The world waits, the crown whispers, and the future edges closer, reshaping destiny in the quietest of ways. The question lingering beneath all of this is not whether William is ready to take over, but how much of the transition has already quietly happened while we were all watching something else. And that question deserves a much closer examination because the evidence is everywhere once you start looking. Consider the subtle but unmistakable shift in how engagements are being distributed across the family. William has been taking on an increasing share of the highest profile diplomatic meetings, the ones that put him face to face with world leaders, the ones that require not just a smile and a handshake, but a deep understanding of geopolitical nuance. He is not just cutting ribbons at community centers anymore. He is sitting down with presidents and prime ministers, discussing climate policy, mental health initiatives, and international security concerns. These are not the assignments of a prince who is content to wait in the wings. These are the assignments of a man who is being deliberately prepared and who is deliberately preparing himself for the moment the full weight of sovereignty lands on him. And alongside him, Catherine has undergone her own remarkable transformation. She has evolved from a shy young woman who married into an overwhelming institution into a figure of genuine global stature, someone whose fashion choices move economies and whose advocacy for early childhood development has reshaped the conversation around mental health and parenting in the United Kingdom and beyond. Together, they are the undeniable future, but they are also the undeniable present. And that present demands a supporting structure that can sustain the monarchy through the inevitable transitions ahead. This is where Sophie and Edward's children become not just relevant, but essential. The reality is that the current roster of working royals is aging and thinning at a rate that should concern anyone who cares about the institution's long-term viability. The Duke of Kent is now in his late 80s. Princess Alexandra, his sister, is well into her 9th decade. The Duke of Gloucester, another steadfast presence, is also in his late 70s. These are people who have served the crown with remarkable dedication for decades, showing up at countless events, supporting countless charities, and providing the quiet, unglamorous backbone of the royal diary. But they cannot continue forever. Time is undefeated, as the saying goes, and the monarchy is facing a generational cliff edge. When these senior royals step back or pass away, the number of available working family members drops precipitously. The slimmed-down model that Charles championed for years sounds efficient in theory, but in practice, it creates a dangerous vulnerability. A monarchy that is too slim risks becoming invisible. A monarchy that is invisible risks becoming irrelevant, and a monarchy that becomes irrelevant risks everything. William understands this calculus with a clarity that perhaps only someone who has watched his father struggle with health issues while trying to maintain the dignity of the crown can fully appreciate. He knows that the institution cannot rest solely on his shoulders, and Catherine's, no matter how capable they are, he knows that the public needs to see a family, not just a couple. He knows that the hundreds of patronages, the thousands of invitations, the endless stream of community visits and state occasions require more hands than two people can possibly provide, especially when those two people are also raising 3 children and trying to give them something resembling a normal childhood. So the solution is not to recruit from outside. The solution is to look within the family and identify the branches that have demonstrated through decades of unblemished service that they can be trusted with greater responsibility. Sophie and Edward's branch is the obvious choice. They have never embarrassed the institution. They have never sold stories to tabloids. They have never aired grievances in public or sought sympathy through carefully staged interviews. They have simply done the work day after day, year after year, without complaint and without fanfare. And that consistency matters more than most people realize. In an era where public trust in institutions has eroded dramatically, where every misstep is amplified by social media, and every controversy becomes fuel for a 24-hour news cycle, the monarchy needs people who will not become liabilities. Sophie has spent decades building relationships with charities and organizations that operate in some of the most challenging environments on earth. Her work on preventable blindness, a cause she has championed with genuine passion, has taken her to remote villages and overcrowded hospitals where she has sat with patients, listened to their stories, and used her platform to direct resources and attention to those who need it most. This is not the work of someone seeking a photo opportunity. This is the work of someone who has internalized the true meaning of service, who understands that the privilege of her position comes with a profound responsibility to use it for something larger than herself. And she has passed that understanding on to her children, not through lectures or decrees, but through the quiet example of a life lived with purpose. Lady Louise, in particular, has emerged as a figure of quiet fascination for royal watchers who see in her the echoes of a younger Elizabeth. There is a stillness about her, a composure that seems almost anachronistic in an age of constant self-promotion and performative authenticity. She does not seek attention, yet when attention finds her, she handles it with a grace that suggests years of careful preparation. Her appearance at the late Queen's funeral was a turning point in public perception. Standing alongside her family, her face composed despite evident grief, she projected a dignity that resonated deeply with those watching. In that moment, many saw not just a young woman mourning her grandmother, but a potential future asset to an institution that will desperately need people who understand the weight of history and the importance of carrying it forward with humility. Her carriage driving, a pursuit she shares with her late grandfather Prince Philip, is more than a hobby. It is a thread connecting her to the legacy of a man who dedicated his life to supporting the monarch, who understood that the strength of the crown lies not in the individual who wears it, but in the family that surrounds and sustains it. James, for his part, has been even more deliberately shielded from the public gaze. He has been allowed to grow up away from the cameras, to attend school without the constant pressure of being a recognizable royal, to develop his own identity before the weight of expectations settles on his shoulders. But the title change changes everything. Earl of Wessex is not a courtesy title handed out to any distant relative. It carries history, significance, and a clear implication that the bearer is expected to play a role in the life of the nation. By accepting this title, James is not merely receiving an honor. He is accepting a responsibility, one that will likely define the course of his entire life. The decision cannot have been made lightly either by him or by his parents. It represents a fundamental recalibration of the family's relationship with the institution, a recognition that the old plan of fading quietly into private life is no longer viable, or perhaps no longer desirable, given the needs of the monarchy and the evident capacity of this branch to meet those needs with distinction. The dynamics within the royal family are always more complex than they appear from the outside. Relationships that seem warm in public may be strained in private. Alliances that seem fixed may shift with changing circumstances. But the bond between Sophie and the senior members of the family appears to be genuinely strong, built on years of mutual support and shared commitment to the institution. She was a particular favorite of the late Queen, who saw in her a kindred spirit, someone who understood that the monarchy's survival depends not on grand gestures, but on the accumulation of small, consistent acts of service. She has been a steadfast support to King Charles during his difficult transition to the throne, a period marked by health challenges, family tensions, and the constant pressure of following a monarch whose reign defined an era. And she has earned the respect of William, who is not easily impressed, and who has made it clear through his actions that he values competence and discretion above all else. This is the context in which the title change must be understood. It is not a random administrative adjustment. It is not a sentimental gesture tied to Sophie's milestone birthday. It is a signal, deliberate and unmistakable, that the future of the monarchy is being shaped right now, in real time, by a prince who is already thinking like a king. William has watched his grandmother navigate decades of challenge and change. He has watched his father struggle with the burden of expectation and the relentless scrutiny of the modern media environment. He has seen his brother walk away from the institution, entirely rejecting not just the duties, but the very premise of hereditary service. He has learned from all of it, absorbed the lessons, and is now applying them with a strategic precision that would impress any corporate leader or political operative. He is building the team he needs, identifying the people he can trust, and positioning them for the roles they will need to fill when the moment of transition finally arrives. And that transition, when it comes, will be unlike any in modern British history. When Charles passes or abdicates, the crown will pass to a man who represents a new generation, a new sensibility, a new vision for what the monarchy can and should be. William will not be content to simply preserve the institution as he inherited it. He will want to reshape it, to make it more relevant, more responsive, more connected to the lives of ordinary people. He will need allies who share that vision, who can execute it with skill and sensitivity, who will not become distractions or liabilities. Sophie and Edward have proven themselves to be precisely those kinds of allies, and their children, raised with the values that have made their parents so valuable to the institution, represent the next generation of that same tradition. Louise and James are not being groomed for the throne. They will never wear the crown or stand at the center of the balcony on Buckingham Palace, but they may well become the trusted lieutenants, the reliable deputies, the steady hands that allow the monarchy to function smoothly in an era of constant change and relentless scrutiny. The public may not yet fully grasp the significance of what is happening. The headlines focus on the drama, the fashion, the occasional controversy that flares up and fades away. But beneath the surface, the foundations of the future monarchy are being laid with extraordinary care. Every title change, every shift in patronages, every carefully calibrated public appearance is part of a larger pattern that points toward a very different kind of royal family, one that is smaller but stronger, one that is less ostentatious but more effective, one that understands that its survival depends not on the trappings of power, but on the quality of its service. Sophie, the Duchess who never sought the spotlight, has become central to that vision. Her children, the young people who were supposed to fade into private life, are being positioned for public roles, and William, the prince who will one day be king, is making it clear that he knows exactly what he is doing, even if the rest of us are only just beginning to catch up. So as Sophie celebrates her 60th birthday, the gift that matters most is not wrapped in paper or tied with ribbon. It is the quiet acknowledgement from the future king himself that her branch of the family is not peripheral but essential, that her decades of service have not gone unnoticed or unappreciated, that her children have a future within the institution she has served so faithfully. It is a validation, a recognition, and a promise all at once. The monarchy is changing, and it is changing in ways that most people do not yet see. But the signs are there for those who know how to read them. The title change for James is one of those signs, a small but significant marker on the path toward a future that is being shaped right now, behind palace walls, in conversations that will never be recorded and decisions that will never be announced with fanfare. The crown endures, the family adapts, and the quietest members, the ones who never sought the spotlight, may yet prove to be the ones who hold it all together when the storms come and the world watches to see whether the ancient institution can survive yet another season of change.